Leprechaun 4 in Space was released in 1996. This is directed by Brian Trenchard Smith, written by Dennis Pratt, and we have a cast including Warwick Davis as the Leprechaun. And I recently watched the previous two films. I'd watched the first film quite a while ago, and they were pretty decent. I was enjoying them, so I thought, okay, let's watch the first one. It seemed like it was going to be a little bit different. It definitely is different, and I do appreciate the effort made to try and give it something a little bit different. There's nothing worse, well, there are a few things worse, than when horror films in particular have a lot of sequels, and every sequel is basically the same. I'm looking at you, Friday the 13th. It very rarely offers anything new. So I appreciate that even 4 films in, they recognised they needed to do something a little different. Did it work? Well, I guess it did. It didn't not work, but at the same time, I didn't particularly love it. The Leprechaun is in space, and he is now after a princess. Pretty same concept as the others, and I like that aspect. I like the fact that it's recognisable. They haven't completely broken the mould. It does feel like a sequel in that regard, but we have a different location, and that does make it a little bit different. The overarching narrative remaining very similar, I thought was a good idea. But that being said, the narrative isn't very good. The story works well in the sense that I'm buying into it. It's believable enough, one scene from the next. The characters' actions I believed. But I just found it to be really, really dull. And it's not very good to look at either. It's not a nice experience visually. We do have some good costumes, and the set designs look okay, but it's often very dimly lit with a very boring colour palette. That's not to say it needed to be all bright and shiny, but it's not that interesting to look at nevertheless. And because the narrative itself just doesn't seem to have that much to offer, there's not much going for it. Yes, the characters are interesting enough, the performances are good. As I said, the costumes look okay, the set designs are fine. Some good music. The music is also quite good. But I feel like the narrative is dull, but in addition, it's neither scary nor funny. I basically felt no emotions when watching this. That being said, the previous Leprechaun films aren't exactly scary either, nor do I think they're that funny, but there's a certain charm to them. They're fun, they're cheesy, there are some great scenes. But with this one, I don't think there was a single scene that I particularly enjoyed, and it definitely isn't scary. And for me, comedy is subjective, but for me, I certainly didn't find it funny. So there's nothing necessarily wrong with it specifically. It told the story it set out to tell. The characters are believable, the performances are good, the set designs are fine, costumes and music, all very good. So it's not horrendous, but I felt nothing. So I didn't feel anything negative. I wasn't necessarily bored even. It was a little bit dull, but I wasn't necessarily desperate for it to finish. I just kind of was going through the motions. So it's not a terrible film, but I don't really think it has anything to offer either. It is just fine. I don't mind that it exists, but at the same time, it's not very good. Do I recommend it? Only if you really like the previous Leprechaun films. If you don't care for those films, unless you really love the concept, the fact that it's set in space, then maybe it's worth watching, but I still don't think it has that much to offer. So if you're a fan of the previous films, give it a go, see what you think. But certainly, it's not as good as the others. And I did look ahead. I looked at what the next film was like because I wanted to see if they were doing something a bit different again. And I won't spoil it in case you are watching these and want the element of surprise. But the next film does also look a little bit different. Credit again where it's due. But I don't think it's going to be to my tastes. So I'm not going to watch the 5th film, at least just now. Maybe eventually, but I'm going to stop here. If you think the next film is fabulous, then by all means, encourage me to watch it. I might prioritise it, but at the moment, no plans to watch the 5th film. I don't even know if it's streaming in the UK or anything. But I'm not ending on a terrible note. If I ever want to come back to it, it won't feel like a chore. But again, I didn't really feel anything positive. Leprechaun 4 in Space is not the worst film I've ever seen, but it doesn't really offer anything, and I only recommend it if you've enjoyed the previous Leprechaun films.